Have you ever looked at your bank account just a day or two after payday and thought, where the hell did all my money go? It's no secret that simply maintaining a pulse is an expensive hobby nowadays, let alone doing anything extreme like trying to seek some sort of comfort or, God forbid, enjoyment. You spend all week stuck in the soul-sucking cycle of waking up, eating, commuting, working, commuting, eating, sleeping, and repeat. 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 to 50 years of your life. And for all of this, what do you have to show? A never-ending stream of bills waiting to be paid, a list of goals it seems you'll never achieve, and the increasingly obvious realization that everyone around you is doing better than you are. They're making more money than you, they're traveling more than you, they're eating at nicer restaurants than you, they're driving fancier cars than you, even their spouse is way hotter than yours. It just doesn't seem fair. But it turns out that all of this is entirely your fault. You could have what everyone else has and more, but you're just lazy. You don't want it bad enough. You're not willing to work and grind and hustle. Oh, I'm sorry, what's that? You already work 8 hours a day? What do you want, a congratulations? Are you a baby? Even the preschoolers at the Temu factory work longer days than that.
Bruh.
At minimum, you should be working 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. You can sleep when you're dead. If you feel tired, it's really just your brain telling you that you don't want it bad enough. So snort another line of espresso and get back to work. This is the kind of shit that the internet has been violently vomiting at us for years. And I don't know about you guys, but I am sick of it. Hustle culture, as it's referred to, is the prevalent sentiment that if you're not constantly burning the candle at both ends, working yourself into deliberate burnout, and dedicating every possible moment of your life to trying to make money to the detriment of literally everything else, then you're a lazy sack of crap, and every inadequacy you feel in your life is entirely your fault. But in actuality, all of this is a very carefully constructed conspiracy, and I want to bust it wide open. But just before I do, I myself need to take a quick minute to hustle here and tell you about the sponsor of this video, UPDF. As someone who loathes hustle culture and absolutely hates the grind, I'm always looking for ways to work smarter, not harder, and UPDF is one of the tools that helps me do just that. UPDF is an all-in-one PDF editing and annotation app that makes it easy to annotate, edit, convert, protect, fill, and sign PDFs across all platforms, including Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. It also features OCR, which lets you scan paper documents and images and instantly convert them into editable PDF files. UPDF can read hundreds of pages, including reports and documents with Apple Pencil annotations, and condense them into easy-to-read summaries in seconds, which saves me hours of mind-numbing work every week. It can also use AI to translate those summaries into other languages. UPDF is affordable, it's easy to use, and it's packed with features that can save you from the grind, help you stay organized, and give you back your time. Click the link below to give it a try for yourself and to get an exclusive discount, and thank you to UPDF for sponsoring this video. When you were a kid in school, you were probably taught that there are 3 socioeconomic classes: lower class, upper class, and middle class. If you grew up in poverty and relied on social services like food stamps or subsidized housing, then you were lower class, and people probably looked down at you for it. On the other hand, if your parents had high-paying professional jobs or maybe inherited some money from their parents, if you had a big house with a backyard swimming pool and you had a nanny, then congratulations, you were upper class. More highbrow than the rest. Something to aspire to. The envy of suburbia. And everyone else, everyone in between, was basically just middle class. You probably had a roof over your head and food in your stomach, but maybe not an abundance of luxuries. Still, you were reasonably comfortable and seen as an unremarkable level of normal, not really drawing too much attention to your circumstances one way or the other. You were the happy medium or the steady average. But as it turns out, it's all bullshit. There aren't actually 3 classes, there are only 2. Though it may not feel this way, it turns out that your neighbor, the dentist that lives down the road and drives the Ferrari, he actually has a lot more in common with the family standing in line at the food bank than he will ever have in common with someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Warren Buffett. The most notable similarity is that in both cases, they're people who need to work in order to earn money. And sure, a doctor earning $500K a year is going to have a vastly different lifestyle than somebody making minimum wage. There's no doubt about that. But in both situations, if they decided to stop working, they would no longer earn money and no longer be able to sustain their respective lifestyles. This places both of them, along with you, me, and pretty much everyone else you've ever met in your life, into what's known as the working class. People who work for a salary or a wage. And sure, if you want to get technical, there are upper, middle, and lower tiers within the working class that can determine what type of lifestyle is accessible to you. But the fact still remains that you're trading your time and your labor for financial compensation, which makes you working class. Then there's the other guys, the Zuckerbergs, the Bezoses, the Buffetts, the Kardashians, the Musks. All of these people are what's known as the ruling class, or the owning class, or sometimes just called the elites, or good old capitalists. These are people who own assets like giant companies or real estate empires, and they don't work for a salary or a wage. They just earn obscene amounts of money off of the labor of other people, off of the labor of the working class, off of you and me. You crawl out of bed in the morning and go to work to make, let's say, $20 an hour. But your labor actually generates $80 or $100 or maybe even $500 an hour of revenue. So where does the rest of that money go? Into the pockets of the owners and investors. In essence, they've paid you a tiny slice of the money that you've generated from your labor and then kept the rest to themselves. Now scale this concept to a company the size of Walmart or Amazon or Google or really any other company that employs hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people with various skill sets who are all working hard to sustain the business. And ask yourself how much money they're likely generating and ask yourself where it's all going. Fun fact, not into the pockets of the employees. So even in a situation where you feel like you're well compensated, like let's say you work as an engineer for Tesla making $250,000 a year, you're likely actually generating millions and millions of dollars of revenue. So while you're working hard and keeping the company running and trying to take care of your family, your boss Elon is taking all of the money that you're making and spending it on something stupid, like himself. Or like buying Twitter and then promptly driving it straight into the ground. And if you're just a cashier at Walmart making $10 an hour standing on your feet all day, Sam Walton Jr. is taking all of the money that he's making specifically because you're standing on your feet all day, barely scraping by with your $10 an hour, and using it to buy his yacht another yacht so it doesn't get lonely. So now you might be thinking, well, okay, but what does any of this have to do with hustle culture? Well, the very concept of hustle culture was invented by the ruling class, by the elites, for one very specific reason: to keep themselves safe. Because if you're struggling financially in whatever way, the very last thing that they want is for you to realize that you're getting screwed, that you're actually generating a ton of money from your work and seeing very little of it. Because if everybody woke up and realized this at the same time, the billionaire owners would be in, let's just say, a not very good situation, if you catch me. Actually, this is how revolutions typically start. But if they can convince you that it's entirely your fault that you're broke, then they can sneak away with the whole pie and watch the rest of us violently fight each other for crumbs.
Well, for once, the rich white man is in control.
They can make the lower class people, air quotes very much needed, blame the upper class for their hardships by believing that they're greedy and devoid of empathy and out of touch with reality. And they can make upper class people resent lower class people for being lazy and entitled and relying on social services. On a somewhat related tangent, I will also point out that the idea that increasing people's wages leads to higher prices for consumers is an absolute fallacy. Costco is a great example of this being true. Costco is known for two things: their low prices and the fact that their employees earn a living wage, with even cashiers making up to $30 an hour. This is achievable largely because their CEO only makes a measly $8.5 million a year instead of a few billion. Poor guy. The prices on Amazon don't have to go up in order to pay the employees more. Jeffy B just needs to be okay with earning, let's say, $5 million an hour instead of $8 million an hour. That's a completely real number, by the way. And by doing so, he could give every Amazon employee an automatic $16,000 a year raise. But then he might have to buy himself a slightly smaller private island, which would be a tragedy. But I digress. Something that I've come to realize over time is that people's incomes are often completely detached from how hard they're actually working. Like on one hand, we have nurses changing adult diapers on violent dementia patients, and paramedics saving people from overdoses, and teachers trying to wrangle 30 out-of-control kids every hour and trying to help them to become well-adjusted, functional members of society. And then on the other hand, we have executives and finance bros sitting in air-conditioned offices all day long scrolling Reddit. And who do you think is earning more? You're not rewarded for hustling, you're rewarded for playing the game. You're rewarded for landing yourself a specific degree or job title that comes with a certain level of prestige, but has really nothing to do with how productive or hardworking you actually are. After working directly with the public for nearly 15 years now and experiencing people of all socioeconomic levels, I can tell you firsthand that the people who are making the most money, the people who have the nicest houses and the most expensive cars, they also tend to have the most freedom and flexibility. They tend to work the least hours, and they're certainly never getting their hands dirty. And I want to be clear that I don't say that to begrudge anyone of anything at all. They're playing the game. They got the credentials that they needed to be able to set themselves up to live a cushy life now, and good on them. I'm just saying that hustling isn't really a part of the equation. The people who are working 60 hours a week and being put under enormous levels of stress, or who are doing manual labor and enduring so much wear and tear on their bodies, they're earning very little by comparison, or they're working 3 times as much and 10 times harder to earn a comparable income. And the people who earn the most, the people who are bringing in hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars a year, actually work the least out of everyone. They spend their time playing golf and sailing and shopping and jet setting between their various homes, all while continuing to get richer and richer to an unfathomable level thanks to the work of the millions of people who are busting their asses running their companies for them for very little in comparison. Now, I of all people am not someone to disregard personal accountability, especially where finances are concerned. Even with everything I just said being objectively true, that doesn't mean that you have to be a helpless victim of your circumstances. You can still choose what career to pursue based on the projected income and what kind of lifestyle that will afford you. You can still choose how to spend the money you do make and decide whether or not to live within your means. You can still play the game, and you absolutely should. I'm a firm believer that everybody who's healthy and able-bodied and living in a rich, developed country has the opportunity to earn themselves a respectable income. And if they manage that respectable income wisely, they can set themselves up to have an amazing life. And I would even take this a step further and say that you have an obligation to yourself to do exactly that. Because when you mismanage your money, when you live beyond your means, when you accumulate debt, all you're really doing is ensuring that you're going to have to continue to work basically indefinitely to stay afloat. And while you continue to slave away for pennies, all you're really doing is making the ultra wealthy even wealthier. It always makes me scratch my head when people try to justify dumb purchases by saying that they work hard and they deserve it. Because I'm like, yeah, you do work hard, so you do deserve it. But don't you also deserve to be financially free one day? So yes, do what you can to increase your income. Follow a budget and save for retirement. Build financial stability and live the life you want. You owe it to yourself. But working 80 hours a week and never sleeping or never seeing your kids is absolutely not a part of that playbook. And anyone who tries to tell you that it is either directly benefiting from your hardship or they're just a bootlicker. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys on this one. Leave me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this topic. Let me know how you feel about hustle culture. I have a feeling that this video is going to be a little bit controversial, and while that wasn't specifically the goal, I think it's an inevitability. So leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if you believe in hustle culture, if you buy into it, or if you also think that it's a scam. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead and hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You can follow me on Instagram. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care. I'll see you next week.